We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Golf Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decade of the 1990s. We've got some outstanding former golfers, and I might add we have some very intelligent former golfers, and you'll hear what I mean in a second on this call tonight. Joining head coach Mike Binney and one of our current student athletes on the golf team, Josh Holtschlag from Brentwood, Tennessee. He's a sophomore, and we thank Josh for joining us tonight. My name's Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for tonight's event. Geisinger has done an outstanding job throughout the pandemic, and as always, they do a great job with our student athletes day in and day out here at Bucknell, so thank you to Geisinger. I'm going to introduce our guest, and then I'm going to turn it over to Coach Binney for the questions. Our first guest from the class of 1993 is David Freese. David was a four-year letter winner, and his top individual finish at the League Conference Championship was 12th, coming first in the ECC Championship in 1990 when Bucknell was still in the East Coast Conference, and then again in the Patriot League Championship in 1993. Our next guest is from the class of 1994, and that's Doug Dollenberg. Doug was also a four-year letter winner. He was selected to the All-Patriot League team in both 1993 and 94. He finished in the top six twice at the Patriot League Championships, including a runner-up showing in 1994. He also won the Susquehanna Fall Classic in 1992. He held the team's low scoring average in the fall of 92 and 93, and the spring of 92, 93, and 1994. He was the Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year in men's golf in both 1992 and 1993, and he won the Bison Club Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 1996 is Jeff Graff, also a four-year letter winner. He was selected to the All-Patriot League team in 1995. His best individual finish at the Patriot League Championship was sixth in that year, 1995. He had the team's low scoring average in the fall of 95 and the spring of both 1995 and 1996. Jeff was the Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year in men's golf in both 1995 and 1996, the theme I talked about earlier. He won the Bradley N. Tufts Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 1998 is Josh Hartman. Josh was a four-year letter winner as well and selected to the All-Patriot League team in both 1997 and 1998. His best individual finish at the Patriot League Championship was fourth in 1996. He held the team's low scoring average in the fall of 94, 96, and 97, and also in the spring of 1997. Josh was the Patriot League Scholar Athlete of the Year in men's golf in both 1997 and 1998. And Josh also won the Bradley N. Tufts Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. And our next guest is from the class of 1999. That's Todd Schneider. Todd was a three-year letter winner and selected to the All-Patriot League team in 1999. His best individual finish at the Patriot League Championship was sixth in 1998, and he held the team's low scoring average in the spring and fall of 1998. So, Coach, we've got a great group. I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's have some fun.
Thank you, Todd. Gentlemen, I think Todd probably already sent you these study questions, so you probably had a chance to look at them. I'm going to combine the first two and just ask each one of you individually to bring us up to speed on what you've been doing since you left Bucknell up until now, your family, your friends, your career, all that stuff. And then take us back to the beginning and ultimately tell us how you chose to, ultimately why you chose Bucknell and come play golf there. So if I could have you answer both those questions. Doug, you are representing the honorary Paul Lynn position on the Hollywood Square. So we're going to kick it off with you in the middle. If you would take it away and give us your perspective on those first two.
Sure. So quickly running through my career, I was an engineering major at Bucknell. When I left, I practiced engineering for about 4 years. Went to get my business degree, did consulting with McKinsey after business school, did that for about 5 years, then went in, worked for a wireless company for about a decade. And then for the last 3 years, I've been president of Brightview Senior Living. We're a owner, operator, and developer of senior living communities in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast area. We have 40 communities, so it's certainly been a challenging industry right now in the midst of this pandemic, which is attacking the senior population, but also very rewarding. We're doing great work lately and really helping to take care of seniors at a very challenging time. So I went to Bucknell, if I rewind the clock, so I graduated in '94, and I was really looking for a place where I could do engineering and also play on the golf team. And a lot of places did not place the value on both academics and athletics that Bucknell does. And so I found a lot of places said you can't do both. If you're an engineer, you have to be in labs, and the golf coach would say, no, you can't be on the golf course because of your lab. So that just doesn't work. Bucknell took a totally different perspective and said, absolutely, you can do both. So that was a fit. And then when I spent time on campus, I loved it. I liked the people, and had a fabulous 4 years there. So thrilled with the decision I made. Great foundation for the rest of my career. And in terms of family, I've got 2 wonderful kids, wife. We live in Baltimore. My kids are 16 and 13 right now.
Fantastic. Jeff, I'll move it on to you if you could take her away.
Sure. So I graduated Bucknell in 1996. I majored in accounting and went to go work for an accounting firm. Worked there for about 4 years, and then I went to get my business degree. And essentially, ever since then, I've worked at the same firm. It's an investment firm, and I live in Potomac, Maryland. I'm married, three kids, 13-year-old son, and 12 and 10-year-old daughters. So they keep me busy. You know, in terms of how I picked Bucknell, I was mainly trying to pick a school based on academics and what I thought would be a good fit for me. And I always thought if I could play golf somewhere, it'd be a bonus. And I happened to apply to a few schools that golf would not have been realistic, like Wake Forest, for instance. And then when I came to Bucknell, I met with Tommy Thompson, and we had been kind of in loose contact. But when I met him, and Tommy was, you know, he was the coach for everyone on this call. I mean, he was a Bucknell legend, right? So he is Hall of Fame basketball and baseball. And as soon as I met him, I mean, we hit it off, and I just loved playing for him all 4 years. And so that's, you know, when I was able to, you know, Bucknell was a great fit for me academically, but when I could add in the fact that I could play golf here, it was a no-brainer. So that's how I decided to go to Bucknell.
Fantastic. Dr. Freeze, you're next.
Okay. Class of 93, majored in biology. From there, went off to Buffalo for medical school. And after medical school, came back home to Rochester, New York for residency and subsequently cardiology fellowship. And I've been in practice as a cardiologist since 2004. Married in 2001, my wife Marcia, and we have a 17-year-old son who pandemic aided is now huge into golf, and a 16-year-old daughter. How I came about choosing Bucknell, similar to what Jeff and Doug would say. You know, I was looking for a school that had great academics, that was you know, not too far away, but not too close either from home. I had a few schools in mind. It was Bucknell, Cornell, Colgate. Bucknell had 3 seniors on their golf team out of the 5 that traveled. And I said, that's opportunity to go along with, you know, a great school. So, you know, I wanted to play, and evaluating those 3 places, I felt like they're all reasonably good schools, but that Bucknell would give me the opportunity to do both, to get the academic part and to perhaps be able to play while I was there. And like the others have said, great choice. My best friends from today are my best friends from Bucknell, and it was a wonderful place.
Awesome. Todd, you're next, sir.
Sure. Todd Schneider, class of '99. I I started as an engineer at Bucknell, and it was actually too much for me. And I blame the engineering labs on why I did not letter in golf my freshman year. But I actually transitioned to accounting and business, and my golf game thrived after that as well. But upon graduation, I spent a number of years at T. Rowe Price on the mutual fund side and asset management side, and kind of migrated more toward the entrepreneur throughout my career. Did a number of years as an investment banker for technology companies. Met my wife in Nashville at business school at Vanderbilt, and ultimately moved with her to San Francisco, where I've been focused on a firm that we founded about 5 years ago that provides venture debt solutions to later stage technology companies. And 2 kids, a 10-year-old boy, a 6-year-old girl, where we live just outside of San Francisco. And in terms of why I chose Bucknell, a lot of similar themes as well. In fact, my number one choice was Wake Forest. Golf really wasn't the central theme for me in choosing a school, although I do remember meeting the golf coach at Wake, and there's pictures of Arnie and Curtis Strange and other PGA Tour players over the wall. And I think he was trying to figure out how I even got into his office, because he asked me how many tournaments I've won recently and what my handicap was. And I think it was like 5 or 6 handicap or something. And just the lack of interest on his face was just something I'll never forget. And my conversations with Tommy were just very different. And it was clear that, he basically said, hey, I'm essentially a golf recruit. And that actually put me over the line in terms of choosing Bucknell with an opportunity to play as well.
Fantastic. Josh, you're next.
I was class of 98 at Bucknell, and studied accounting and have been in the commercial real estate brokerage business primarily in the mid-Atlantic area, but we do work sort of around the country as well. Married, live in Bethesda, Maryland, and we have a 14-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl. And our son, the 14-year-old, is getting quite into golf. He and I actually just got back from a trip to Pinehurst, father-son trip that was a lot of fun. And then as far as choosing Bucknell, I would also say Coach T had a role in it, because so unlike some of the guys, it sounds like I knew I wanted to play golf. It had been a huge part of my life going into college, and so I knew that I wanted to play. And Coach T just seemed like the type of person that you'd want to sort of run a program, particularly if you wanted to play, but you also, as everybody has alluded to, you wanted to come out with a very good education and a very useful degree. So he sort of blended that really, really well. And that was obvious from when I first met him. The other thing that was a difference maker for me was when I came up and toured schools in the summer, I guess it would have been the summer after my junior year of high school. My dad stayed at the hotel, and I took the car and drove around the campus and drove past the golf course, happened to have the clubs in the car, went and asked the guys in the shop if I could play a few holes, and did, went out and played the first 4 or 5 holes. And, the proximity to the campus, it seemed like a place I could happily spend 4 years. And it was a great 4 years of playing golf and going to school.
Fantastic. Todd, if I could, since Mr. Hanson has joined us, if you would do the formal introduction for him, and then we can give him the same question.
Absolutely. So let's welcome Don Hanson from the class of 1994 to the call. Don was a 3-year letter winner for the Bison, selected to the All-Patriot League team in 1991. His best individual finish at the Patriot League Championship was 7th, also in 1991. He held the team's low scoring average in the fall of 1990 and 91, and the spring of 91 as well. So welcome to Don.
Don, if you could take your microphone off of mute there for a second there in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm just going to ask you the same 2 questions. Just kind of bring us up to speed on where you've been since you left Bucknell, career, family, and then just share with the audience why you ultimately chose to come to Bucknell.
Sure. Good evening. Good, nice to see a few faces that I recognize. I chose Bucknell. I live in Rye, New York right now, where I've lived for the last 12 years. I work, thankfully these days, from home. And I think going forward will be mostly from home as well, which is fantastic for me. I think it's worth 2 shots in the handicap. I sometimes happily married. I have a 14-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy. The girl has no interest in golf. The 12-year-old boy is, it's constant exposure, but love is not there quite yet. So hopefully we'll find that later on. And I specialize in Japanese equities. I do sales. I was in economics and East Asian studies double major at Bucknell. So for my sins, I've attached myself to the worst demographics in the world for the longer part of my career. I arrived at Bucknell because I was moved to Florida at the end of 9th grade and simply wanted to get back to the Northeast/Midwest. Probably should have considered playing golf in the South, but when I saw Bucknell, a beautiful woman took me on tour, and I didn't get into Dartmouth, and that pretty much sealed the fate right there. I love hearing you guys wax on about Coach T. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. I think he was a great bus driver as well. I'm not sure how much of a golf coach he was. I love the fact that he used to say, you have to try harder. That was my favorite line from Coach T. I'm like, Coach, that's actually terrible for me to try harder. But he was a sweetheart of a guy, and certainly in his own regard, just an amazing athlete and an asset to Bucknell. My most memorable experience at Bucknell is by far staying until 5 a.m., forgetting my golf shoes for the Penn State Invitational, getting Coach T to berate me in front of the entire team. After the first day playing in bleacher moccasins, trailing by 2 shots on the field, playing in second place, and then having his wife kindly deliver my shoes the next day. And then I swang out of them for the rest of the day and scored very badly in the second day of the tournament. So bleacher moccasins, not necessarily a terrible decision to go with.
I forgot about that, Donnie.
Yes, that was a good one. And I did enjoy you saying that the school allowed you to study and play golf, Doug, because I distinctly remember a freshman year English teacher who just disallowed that altogether. And I think gave you a B, probably only one in your career at Bucknell.
I remember her. Her.
Yeah, yes, very coldly.
She was not a fan of athletics.
No, she was not. Revenge best served cold, as they say.
Yeah.
And I read the rest of these questions, but I'll just cut it at that.
Yeah, we'll get back to some of the questions. We're kind of ping-ponging around. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Josh, my sophomore, and he's going to ask a couple of questions in combination of all of you. And if you would just share your experiences and advice to Josh for what you've got out of Bucknell. So Josh, take it away, sir.
Yeah, so to formally introduce myself, I'm Josh Holtschlag. I'm a sophomore on the team here, and I'm planning to major in finance. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. A couple of questions I'd like to ask you guys is what advice you would give to me or like any of my other teammates about the college golf experience at Bucknell, and also what advice you would give about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell. So I guess we could just go in the same order as the last questions.
All right, so Doug, take it away.
Sure. I'd say the advice I'd give Josh is two things really strike me. One, enjoy it. Bucknell's fabulous. Being able to be on campus and enjoy what they have and play. Bucknell's got a great golf course, the golf program. It's a wonderful time in your life. Enjoy it. And the second thing is just embrace the lessons it teaches you about balancing priorities. By playing on the golf team, you're out there for many hours a day. You're going on trips. You're not just going for one night. You're often going for, 2 days, 3 days at a time. And it forces you to figure out how to get a lot done in life. And it's enjoyable. It's challenging. I also think it sets you up for the future. You're just forced, you're going to be gone Thursday through Saturday. life's still going on at Bucknell. Classes are still going on, tests are still going on. And Bucknell, the athletic department, does a great job of prioritizing the athletics and the academics. But with help, you figure out that, okay, I can miss school and class on Thursday and Friday and still keep up. And you have fun doing it. And those lessons, they last a long time.
Mr. Graff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo what Doug said, which is enjoy it. I think the three components are golf, academics, and obviously social. And to the extent you can balance all three of those and you kind of put your all into all of them so that when you graduate, you look back and say, you know, I really took advantage of all the opportunities there to play golf, to make friends, obviously to exceed academically. In terms of a job search, you know, I majored in accounting, and, you know, if there's one regret that I have, it's that I kind of, you know, the accounting program kind of funnels you into the big, I guess at the time it was the big six, now it's the big four accounting firms. And that was a very easy path to take. And that's the path that I took. I think I probably, if I were doing it again, I'd probably sit back and just kind of look at all the different jobs that there are. I mean, finance is such a huge world in terms of opportunities and different jobs. Reach out to the alumni. I think they'd be very willing to talk with you and your teammates in terms of if you just want to do just an informational interview, ask them what their day is like, you know, and then when you hear them, you know, talk about what their day is like, what skills are required to succeed in that job, you know, if that sounds like something that appeals to you, then, you know, you're only a sophomore, so you still have a few more years to really kind of, you know, narrow down your focus of what kind of field to go into. So that would be my advice. It's never too early to start networking, and you've got a great and successful alumni database.
Amen to that. Dave.
Hey, you know, I would echo certainly the enjoyment part, and that's everything about the college experience. That's your friendships, that's the golf and the events and the travel and being away with your team. It's the social elements when you're back on campus. College has everything, and it's a time to explore all that. And you know, it's wonderful in that regard. You know, the other thing I would say for the college golfer is to compete. If I have a regret, it's that I didn't spend my summers competing. Get involved in your local golf association, your state AMs, USGA events. These are things that are done now more by college golfers than they were back when I left high school in '89. But competition's great, and meet great people. You learn how to play, you learn how to score. And I think it makes you a better player when you come back to campus in the fall. In terms of your job and networking, you know, I didn't have to find a job for 11 years after college. So I just kept going to school. I lived in my parents' basement till I was 31 and got married. True story. But, you know, I would say this about Bucknell. I mean, I was there. I knew I wanted to be a physician, or I thought I did when I showed up, and I did all the pre-med stuff. But what I'm really glad is that I did all these other things, these English classes and the like, that, you know, later in life are actually pretty valuable. The ability to read, write, and communicate with others is extremely valuable as you go on in your career. And so obviously having the technical skills necessary are going to be important to get you to where you want to go and do what you want to do. But take advantage of the other aspects of the liberal arts education that Bucknell gives you. If you're looking for it, you can really find out how to read, write, and communicate. And there will be 10 other people that can do what you can do later in life. But if you can explain it, and if you can build teams, and if people were, you know, listen, and you can communicate to those groups, you'll set yourself apart. And I really have Bucknell to thank for that. So that's my advice.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Todd.
Yeah, I think all well said, and I'm not sure there's a ton that I can add other than just reinforcing, you know, cherish every moment. There'll be different phases in your life where you can't just disappear for 3 days in in a minivan to a golf tournament where you really don't have a whole lot of obligations other than to go play golf with some friends or some classmates. And I just reinforce that, that is finite. It's going to end, and you'll move into different phases of your life where you got a lot of different obligations on your time and your budget. And so I would just reinforce that for sure. And most likely, some of the class or some of your teammates will most likely be lifelong friends, which, it's harder as each year passes to maintain some of those friendships, but for sure, for me, there's a couple teammates where, those have become lifelong friendships, and just sort of keeping that in mind along the way. And then I guess advice, on the job front, totally agree with trying to come up with a point of view on what you want to do for your life is really hard. And I think the best way to do that is to reach out to the alumni network and almost treat that like a class of sorts, and budget time to ping folks across a wide variety of industries. And I think the alumni are always happy, just to be peppered with questions. And there is truth also to, it's as much about who you know as it is about what you know, and building some alumni connections can be incredibly valuable.
Josh.
Yeah, I'll make it very brief because I think I'm going to echo a lot of the same things. If I had one regret about my time as it relates to golf at Bucknell, I wish I had played more. I really do. You've got this wonderful golf course, a 5-minute walk from wherever you live on campus, and you won't get a chance to play this much golf until you retire from whatever profession you undertake. So it's as good as it's going to get in terms of the amount of golf you can play right now, notwithstanding some weather limitations of central Pennsylvania. But play as much as you can, get some games against your teammates and against other people, whether they're part of the golf program or not. And then I would echo something that Jeff sort of alluded to as far as finding the right job. I think networking is sort of speaks for itself, but I think the phrase is, the right job. I mean, if I'm reading between the lines about what Jeff said, the same would be a little bit true for me, which is that I just sort of went with the herd and funneled from the accounting program into the big six accounting firms. And I never really gave a whole lot of thought about what I wanted to do. I sort of just got in line with everybody else and ended up working in an accounting firm. And I think that there's a better way to think through it, which is tough to do at your age. But I think if you think about what you're really comfortable doing, are you comfortable working in big groups or being in big groups? Are you more comfortable being in smaller groups or on your own? And sort of then what things do you find really interesting? I can't say for 1 second of my life I ever found accounting or auditing interesting. And if you can be so lucky as to pair your career with something that you have a natural interest in, I just think, you'll find your passion and the right sort of professional solution for you sooner. And then the other thing is, a lot of Bucknell alumni would be happy to play with somebody that plays the way that you play. And anyone that played on the golf team, everyone on this call, or anyone else who played on the golf team who's not on this call, would be thrilled to play golf with you at any time. And that's candidly the best sort of, in my experience, the best way to spend time with somebody, to find out what they do and to get them to know you.
That's a
great one. Don, bring us home, Don.
I think that's a great comment by Josh. Before you said that, Josh, I was going to say, don't forget your proximity with regards to finding a job. I think it's really difficult when you're sitting, when you're 18, 19, 20 and thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? It's really powerful to go talk to people and hear their narrative about how their careers have progressed and kind of where they started and what they thought they wanted to do and where they ended up. And being Bucknell, you're pretty close to a lot of cities where you can hop in a car or borrow a car and go someplace for a day and ask them if you can shadow them and have lunch with them and just kind of talk to them about their career and really find out a ton. And to Josh's point, probably even better, ask them if you can swing by and play around and golf with them on a weekend, which doesn't take away from your academic week, and probably get to play some pretty awesome golf courses, and get to see you in your natural kind of environment as well, which is probably great marketing for you. I would say, I would echo as well. I mean, I wholeheartedly regret the fact that I didn't play enough golf at Bucknell. I was way too busy doing other nefarious things, and I would, if I had it all over again, I would put it in my schedule like it's a class that you can't miss. You guys probably practice more. You have a fancy practice facility, but we didn't have that. I think mine was like the third floor of DU is where I practiced, and that wasn't very good for my golf game. And it's funny because I love to practice. I love it to death, and I love to practice with friends. So over the years, I've done a lot more practice than I have probably when I was at Bucknell. And I probably did a lot more when I was in high school. But I would, make a point to really put in as many hours as you can, because as Todd was saying, it's harder to find the time as you get older to spend that much time in your game, and be able to and really enjoy the trips together. So that would be my 2 points.
I'll second the fact that Don was not a big fan of practice when he was at now.
I was a fan of practice. I was just a fan of other things equally.
Josh, do you have anything that you want to wrap up with those questions? Any comments or follow-up questions?
No, I just appreciate you guys' responses.
Awesome.
Really means a lot.
So this is kind of like my most fun part of the night, is to ask you these two questions. One, what was your most memorable experience or experiences in general of being part of the Bucknell golf program? And who was the teammate or individual that you admired most throughout your career at Bucknell? So, Doug, we're going to go right back to you and kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, this is almost best if it bounces around, because the things that have been said are bringing back memory. Traveling with the team was just so many elements of it. Being in the van, I remember the dumbest thing we used to do when it was backing up. You'd hit the roof, and Coach T always we hit another car. We must have done that at least once a month, and it worked most of the time. But traveling in the van and staying in hotels with guys and just hanging out, and the competition, the fun and the stress of the competition, bonding with people. I loved not a particular moment, but just traveling with the team was such a great memory. One of the other funny things, Donnie, seeing you, I'll never forget the time that you came off the 18th hole. I forget what course it was. Freeze would probably remember. He remembers everything. And you had played well, but you didn't putt well. And you 3-putted the 18th green. You took a 36-inch putter, held it by the ends, and snapped it in half. Like, I couldn't break one over my knee, and you break it in midair and snap it. I will never forget that. It was that same strength that would, from time to time, put me in a headlock and beat up on me. But it was so many fun times.
Any individual who you admired the most, looked up to?
Yeah, for me, Coach T, because of the all-around person he was. He was caring. He was genuine. He was Mr. Bucknell, a coach, a player, a multi-sport athlete, a true competitor. I mean, he was not a great golfer, but he could figure out a way to help you. And, it was often on the mental game, because he wasn't necessarily going to help fix your golf swing, but he cared so much about all of us. He was so genuine, and he made sure that he didn't just care about our golf games. He cared how we were as people. And multiple folks already said that that's why they came to Bucknell. That was a part for me. And he was a huge part as to why I loved Bucknell. Just a great human being.
Jeff.
Yeah, lots of great memories. Like Doug said, traveling in the van with the team. One in particular, I won't get into too much, but it left on bid day, and Mark McGinley made a pretty memorable trip with us up to one of the tournaments. But keeping it PG, I'd say that I remember the first tournament I played in, and I was fighting for that fifth spot as a freshman, and it was the first tournament I played in. It was Edgewood in the Pines, and it was a rainy day, which, as it turned out, I didn't know at the time, but a lot of our golf was going to be played in less than ideal conditions, and I had a tough day. Really struggled, but kind of grinded out in 82. And I came in. I remember walking from the 18th green to the scorer's tent, thinking, "Well, I can say I played college golf. I played one tournament. That's it. I'm going to get cut. I'm never going to make it on the travel team again." And I think I heard also that Doug had shot a 2 under 70, which was just a great round in those conditions. And I thought, well, yeah, okay. So I played one round. That's not so bad. At least I can say I played college golf. And as it turns out, wasn't as bad as I thought. Got to play all 4 years, but just lots of great times with the guys. Those road trips were a lot of fun. In terms of who I looked up to, I mean, I echo what Doug said. I mean, Coach T was a great role model, great guy. I looked up to all the upperclassmen, though. 3 of whom were on this call, and also Paul Gregory, who's not on this call, but just a great guy. But if I had to pick one person, I mean, I think it'd be Doug. He was captain when I was there. Just a really fine golfer, great guy, great captain, and very good student. And I think that he kind of embodied what it was to be a student athlete at Bucknell. And really enjoyed playing with Doug.
Thank you, Jeff.
Fantastic. Dr. Freeze.
Yeah. So, no one memory, but as I look back, the league championships each year are sort of embedded in my mind. That first year, we weren't in the Patriot League yet. Todd had mentioned, I think we were in the East Coast Conference or something like that. And it was up in Pocono Manor, and 36 or 54 hole event. And we go out the first day, and I'm the only freshman there and all the upperclassmen, and we have a decent day, and we're maybe third or so. And I was low person on the team, and I'm all excited about day 2. And we're going to play 36 holes, 7 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock, and get to bed early, wake up the next day, drive out there, and we can't see 5 feet in front of us. And there's fog everywhere in the middle of the Poconos. And, Coach T's like, "It's fine. It burns off." And so we wait and we wait and we wait. And at noon, it burns off, and we go out to the range to practice, and we figure we'll get in 18 holes. And the pro comes out and says, "Actually, we have our resort guests are playing now. They all have tee time, so you guys got to get out of here." I was like, "Okay, well, Division I golf, sort of, I guess." So it was a one-day event, and it was what it was. We fogged out. The next year, we go first year of the Patriot League. We go to Colgate.
Oh,
yeah. And it snows, and there's an inch of snow on this green that I'm putting, and there's an official right there. I'm like, "Are we stopping? Are we playing?" He's like, "Well, you can brush off the snow in your line. Like, it just keeps accumulating." He's like, "Well, it's not snowing on the other holes, so they want you to keep going." It's not snowing on the other holes. What is that? Like, snowing, buddy. And we played through it, and
My hands are still cold from that round. It was sort of a rain sleet. It was in the 30s, and the wind was just blowing hard. It was the coldest, most miserable round I've ever played in my life.
Then the next year, so fogged out, snow. Then we go to Army the next year, and it's hail and sleet and freezing rain. I get done with the first 18 holes that you got to play 36 the first day. My shoes, they've fallen apart. There's water coming out everywhere. Doug's dad looks at me and goes, "You can't do that, son. You can't play with those." And he takes me into the golf shop and he buys me a pair of shoes. And it was the greatest thing ever. Like, and I shot my lowest round, I think, ever in the Patriot League tournament after Doug's dad got me the new shoes. So I will always appreciate Doug's dad getting me the shoes that year. And then my final year was at Navy, and it was like, well, it was finally decent. It was 45, 50 degrees, but it wasn't snowing. And last round on the 15th hole, I knocked my second shot into the hole on a par 4, and then birdied the last 3, and I finished 5 under on the last 4 holes. And in my mind, when I replay this story every night, it's to shoot 69. The reality is it's probably to shoot 81. But, you know, you finish up and it's like, yeah, I finally figured something out and now it's all over. But, you know, it was, it's those experiences. The league championships are always sort of embedded in my mind. Specific moments, you know, I had this one written down and Doug stole it from me. If you were there, you will never forget the feats of strength of Don Hanson snapping the putter in his bare hands. I mean,
What course was it, Dave?
Host Farm, I'm gonna guess, but I think it was in Lancaster, the Host
Tragically,
Farm.
tragically, it might have been courses.
And then the other memorable moment for me was just being there for Doug when he got a hole-in-one on our spring trip at Pinehurst. That was kind of fun. So
I was in that group. I remember that. Yeah.
Right.
You know, a lot of great experiences, moments at Bucknell. You know, with the golf team and otherwise, sitting at the front row baseline for the basketball game. Bucknell basketball was great and a lot of fun. And then who'd you look up to? I like everyone. Coach T. When I met him as a high school senior, I thought this was a guy that I'd love to go and play for. He was a jock. He was an athlete. He spoke to you like an athlete. I played soccer and basketball and lacrosse, and I love that he wasn't just necessarily a golf nerd. Super kind-hearted, would go out of his way to help you when he could. And then, you know, on the team would be Doug. Doug worked hard. He was honest. He was humble to a fault. You know, he taught me that good was not necessarily good enough, that you do it right, you give it your best every time. He was kind enough to really leave all the girls on campus to the rest of us, and, you know, we've been great friends ever since. You know, we were in each other's weddings, the best man at his wedding. Doug and I we were on the 17th hole in 1999 at Brookline when Justin Leonard made that putt. We were right there next to each other. We've been together for a lot of big moments in our lives going forward. We still have times where we get together every year since Doug graduated in '94. We've gotten together for an annual event called the Bison Cup, where Doug and he plays with one of our college buddies, and I'm on the other team. I oppose Doug every year, and we play for this little thing right here. I'm going to show it, the Bison Cup, right? And I'm going to show it because Doug, I'm not sure you know what it looks like. It's been a little while. You know, I don't see many Dollenbergs on the trophy anymore.
Yeah,
Doug,
it travels with whoever wins it. It's not in my office.
Yeah. So, you know, Doug used to beat me up pretty good in college. I think the last time Doug beat me in a singles match in the Bison Cup, the Bills were in the Super Bowl. So it's been a while. But those are, you know, that's my memories and what I remember and who I admire the most.
Awesome. Todd, you're up.
So quick memory, one of many, but I think this was sophomore year. I was just I didn't really play much freshman year, and was just kind of getting into the groove of how to play college golf in you know, Northeast fall weather. And this was at I think it was the Navy Invitational. It was again one of those days. It was like rain, snow mix, windy. I remember we all got out of the van and there was a rush for the Gore-Tex rain gear. There was like a big deal made about T like investing in this like Gore-Tex rain gear, pants and tops. And there was a big rush for it. So, and I'm sort of like relatively sort of the new guy. And all the rain gear was gone by the time I went to the back of the van to get my gear. And I was totally underdressed for the weather, and there was no normal clothing that could like have helped here. And I just remember being soaked head to toe already on the first tee, shivering, freezing cold, could barely hold on to my club. I played terribly. I shoot something in the high 80s probably. And I hadn't seen Tommy all day. And I get off the 18th hole, and usually he's there to kind of check in throughout the round and also after the round. And I get off the 18th green and I see him over in the parking lot. He's in the van. I think the engine was running. The heater was on. He's in there with his son, Todd. They're both wearing head to toe Gore-Tex rain gear. I was like, that's where the extra gear is. That was funny. But in terms of who I looked up to, in fact, there's two, and they're both on this call actually, Jeff and Josh, for different reasons. Jeff, when I was a freshman, really made me feel welcome to the team, even though I was sort of on the fringes of even being on the team. I didn't travel at all, was really just on the practice squad. And Jeff went out of his way to pick me up at certain times and drive me to the golf course and kind of get me acclimated with Bucknell, and even invited me to put me on the list at SAE. And I remember when the rest of the students came in, and I told my whole freshman hall that I could get them into SAE, and so I brought like 6 guys over there one day, and they let me into SAE, but they didn't let anyone else into SAE that night. But I remember Jeff kind of finding me that evening and introducing me to some of his SAE crew and what an SAE party meant. But that's something that stuck with me, and I tried to kind of reciprocate to the younger guys as I became an upperclassman, and it's something that I definitely remember. And then Josh, for different reasons, Josh is a ferocious competitor, and maybe sometimes it's internal, maybe not always external, but I certainly learned that, and something I could relate to is sort of internal competitiveness. But definitely motivated me to compete and win even harder, having just a fierce competitor, leading the team, particularly as he was a senior and I was a junior. And also Josh's ability to connect with people and charisma that I just quite honestly can't quite relate to. But everyone knew Josh, and all the coaches of the Patriot League knew Josh. All the players in the Patriot League knew Josh, and it wasn't because he was a great player, but it was just, he just had a little bit bigger than life personality out there sometimes. And I just remember one day at one of the tournaments, Josh shows up in white shoes, white pants, white belt, and a white shirt, and telling everyone after every shot that he hit that he's a stormtrooper. And and the guys in my group were like, "Who's that number one? Who's your number one guy?" Telling everyone he's a stormtrooper. I'm like, "Oh, that's Josh. I don't know." But just a good memory there.
That's awesome. Funny. Josh, you're next.
Tell us where you got those shrooms to wear the all white outfit.
Right. Well, I need Jeff's help a little bit on this. Jeff, I sent you a text. I don't know if you got it, but there was a freshman on the team when I was, I guess, a sophomore or junior, and Jeff was probably a senior. And his name was Tony Calander, and he was kind of full of it. And we were out getting ice cream at this place next to the hotel, and they sold cakes. And so he announced, it was just me and Tony, and he announced that he was going to get a cake, and he was going to bring it back to the hotel, and he was going to throw it in whose face, Jeff?
Jim Ofria.
Jimmy Ofria, who was like the nicest guy. There was no reason to throw a cake in Jim Ofria's face. But so Tony bought this cake, and he carries it back to the hotel, and Jimmy Ofria doesn't see it coming a mile away. And it might have been okay, except for the fact that it turns out it was an ice cream cake. So it was hard as a rock. And so once you got through the icing, it about knocked Jimmy Ofria out cold. And it hit the fan from there. They went running down the hallway after each other. I mean, it was just, but one of the things that enabled that was Coach T really gave us the leeway to have time together and our private conversations and our laughs and our jokes. And so that was a lot of fun. Like a lot of the guys on this call, I looked up to Jeff a lot when I was there, in large part because he seemed to have sort of every attribute of the Bucknell University and the Bucknell golf situation kind of completely under control, from his academics, which were always, extremely strong, to, his fraternity life, which seemed to be, fully robust, and then always seeming to be squared away at golf tournaments. And it was just sort of it was a good, we had some other guys who were a little loose in some of those different areas, whether it was academics or whether it was recreational activities. But I remember thinking to myself, Jeff has a lot of fun, but he's really squared away, and that's how to do it.
Appreciate that, Josh. Let me just follow up. What Todd said about you being a competitor. I wish that you were internally competitive, but sadly, I've seen a lot of that competitiveness come out in my face over the years.
So there's one competitive story real quick. So Todd and I were playing at my course here in Maryland when he lived in Baltimore. Do you remember this, Todd? And we were playing, you can call it anything you want, but it's the game where the unit of wager can be doubled. Some people call it backgammon golf. Some people call it, there's a million names. Yeah. But we see the 18th tee, and we were at I can't even remember, but I think it was worth $32. And it went 32, 64, 128, 256. It was about to go 512. And we were at that point on the 18th green, because it kept getting doubled. Like somebody would hit it in a tough spot, but then recover and redouble. And so it was about to go 256 to 512. And we were like 24 and 22. Like neither one of us had $500, let alone $128. And we, thank God, we looked at each other and we were like, truce? What are we doing? Yeah, just kind of wrapped it up there. Anyway, it was fun.
Nice. Well, last but not least, John, if you could take us home with that last question and wrap things up for us. We've heard a lot of good stories about you snapping clubs, so you've got to have a good story.
I did get threatened. Coach T said to me at one point, the next club you break, you're paying for yourself. I'm done paying for your clubs. And I remember being on the that whole.
Wait, you got your clubs paid for?
Yeah. There was a lot of unmet hope for the Hanson golf game at Bucknell. So that hole that you hit right when you come in, I forget the name of it, what number it is, but 10, 11. So it's 11, right? And
11
with the trees on the right. So I drive it left and about 75, 100 yards from the hole, and I'm on a route, and I hit a 5-iron, trying to punch it, and the shaft breaks. So I take the two clubs. I'm like, oh gosh, and I throw them in my bag. And as I'm throwing in the bag, Coach T drives up, and he starts berating me in front of this other player. And I was like, Coach, he wouldn't let me talk, and he was just like, Hanson, I told you last time. And the other player from Colgate, where walks over, was like, Coach, he broke that swinging the golf club. And the coach looks at him, he's like, okay, this one time, this is it. I always enjoyed the fact that no matter where you were going, less than 25 minutes from Bucknell, Coach T would say, well, I guess it's time to stop at Wendy's, right? We'll stop at Wendy's. No one else in the van liked Wendy's when we started, but you ended up kind of loving Wendy's just because it was so important to Coach T that you have Wendy's no matter what happens. So
Yes.
I always remember, you know, that was important no matter what, Wendy's. So whenever I drive past a Wendy's, I think of Coach T. In terms of people I respected on the team or looked up to, I respected Mike Smiggy, you know, for his total apathy towards the game and towards that 3-wood that he used to hit, which he swore he could hit like 270 yards and control everywhere. But I have to say, I saw Dave a couple of years ago up at Oak Hill, and I was with a crew of guys, and we reconnected with Doug on text. And I really enjoyed truly all the time with those two, both at Bucknell, in Pinehurst, driving around. They're so antithetical to like who I am as a person, completely non-linear. They're both like so linear, so like every T is crossed, every I is dotted. But it was, you know, great fun rooming and cleaning clubs together in the evenings, and just really enjoyed the time. And actually, when I saw Dave a couple years ago, I regretted that I had allowed the friendships to lapse because it does, and it did bring me so much happiness. So anyway, not so much an admiration, but certainly a mutual respect and love.
Fantastic. Well, gents, I really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. I loved hearing the stories, and you guys are the final decade that we're doing in this series. And I really, really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. So with that, Todd, I'll turn it back over to you, and you can wrap us up.
Thanks, Coach. And I want to turn my attention first to Josh. And Josh, thank you for joining us tonight, and I wish you good luck in the spring. I know we all want you and your teammates to go down to Annapolis and kick the midshipmen all over that course in the Patriot League Championships. And we wish you luck doing it. So good luck, and take you know, the things you learned on this call back to your teammates. There's always great advice that's given by our alums, and they're a great resource. And I would, you know, be sure that you stay in touch with these guys as well, because I know they won't refuse any time you reach out or you call. So thanks again for being on the call. And then to the alums, guys, what a great group. I knew it would be. It's something about men's golf, your decade and the decade of the 2000s, when Coach and I had them on, and I complimented the guys from the 2000s the same way I will you guys, in that you supported other programs, athletic programs, while you were there. And that to me is so important, because in a day and age when our student body has so much else to choose to do, they don't really come out and support the athletes. And if the athletes aren't supporting each other, it doesn't work so well. And you guys really started that tradition with what you did at the basketball games. The guys from the 2000s carried that tradition on. And Josh, I'm going to ask you and your teammates to go and support other teams. And, you know, I know you guys do already, but it's really important, I think. And I think you guys did a great job of that. Not to mention all that you did on the golf course and in the classroom while you were at Bucknell. You were great ambassadors of the program. And more importantly, what you've done since you left Bucknell. Our programs can't have any success, or the success that they do have, without the great support we get from our alumni base. So thank you guys all for that. And then for those of you that tuned in tonight at home to watch, thank you for doing so, and go Bison.